Hey everybody, this is TCG Productions here, and today we are working with my Gateway 2000 8046 system, and I'm going to be showing y'all how to migrate a Windows installation between hard drives. Now, the way I'm going to be doing this is I've already taken a full backup of all the files on the source drive, and I went ahead and used a utility called Seagate Backup, which operates under DOS, and I've taken a full backup to a DDS2 tape. I'm glad that box of tapes did not come crashing down to the ground, because that would have made a horrible noise. Anyways, I've already went ahead and made my backup to a DDS2 tape. I know you can't hardly see that because I've got the camera manually set up, and we're going to be going from the 428 megabyte hard drive in this system, which, if we just do a quick directory listing here, I only have about 93 megabytes free on it, and we're going to be going over to my 677 megabytes after formatting SCSI hard drive, the 1990 built Seagate ST4766 NV hard disk. So I'm not going to discuss exactly how I take a backup to tape in this video. I'll be doing that in a different video. But the way we're going to start out here is we're going to start by jumping on into FDISK, and I'm going to go ahead and change current fixed disk drive. We're going to select drive 2. Then I'm going to create a DOS partition, or logical DOS drive, and I'm going to create a primary partition, and it's just going to do a quick drive check. I'm going to tell it I want to use the maximum available size for a primary DOS partition. And it's going to say primary DOS partition created, drive letters changed or added. And then at this point, you're going to want to make sure you have an MS-DOS floppy diskette ready at the ready. See, MS-DOS 6.22 startup. And we're not going to be using it just yet, but we will need this as soon as we can get this drive formatted. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to exit FDISK, and it's going to say system now restart. Make sure there's no floppy diskettes in your drives or anything like that. And you go ahead and press any key. System is going to perform a soft reboot. And there's a SCSI controller's BIOS coming up. It's detected our SCSI drive. Now it says installed as drive D. Basically, that translates to it's installed as fixed disk drive 2. And there's our ASPI driver coming up at 13H routed through ASPI Manager, ASPI to DOS installation successful. Now, if we jump back into FDISK, change our current fixed disk drive and display partition information, we do have a partition, drive letter D, and volume label unknown. Volume label blank, 632 megabytes, unknown file system. That's because we haven't formatted it yet. So now we're going to do format, let me see, disk, and we're going to tell it that we want to format D. I have the right SCSI disk, and we could try to do a quick format, but I don't think that's going to work, and it's just going to default to an unconditional long format. And then we tell the drive letter that we want. All data will be lost. Disk cannot be quick formatted. And we're just going to go ahead and do an unconditional format. So we'll come back whenever this is done. Alright, our format has just finished. 662 megabytes available disk space. Okay, so what we're going to do next is we are going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead and jump into Seagate Backup here. No, thank you. And if I can ever figure out how to open this cartridge, here we go. I'm going to go ahead and put the tape cartridge in the drive. And I'm going to go ahead and set up our restore here. Let's see, there we go. Restore all the files. And I'm going to go ahead and restore to other drives. And we're just going to go ahead and do a speedy restore. And it looks like our drive has become ready, so there we go. Here we go. Next thing that's going to happen is we're actually going to end up with a prompt on our screen asking us where we would like to restore files to, in which case it's going to be drive D, which is our SCSI drive. Restore files from drive C onto drive D. And then we're going to go ahead and touch up some camera adjustments here. I'm going to go ahead and there we go. And I want to restore to drive D. So, and it begins restoring. So, I'm just going to let this run and we'll come back whenever the restore has completed. Alright, it looks like our restore has just completed. So, that took a grand total of just over 42.5 minutes, as we can see. And I tell you what, that SCSI drive was chugging the whole time. So, let's go ahead and shut this down. And let's go ahead and do a tape eject. Go. And then now I'm going to go ahead and quit out of here, and then we're going to do something slightly unusual, which this is a feature on this particular system's motherboard. You can jump directly into system setup right from DOS. So what we're going to do here is we're going to jump down here to hard disk 1, and we're going to set it to not installed. Now, what this is going to do is it effectively disables the IDE controller on the system. So our SCSI drive, which right now is drive D, is going to become drive C, as we'll see in a bit. And of course, setup changes take effect immediately, so there's no like save and exit or anything, you just simply exit. And as we can see, I can just jump right back out to DOS. And another nifty thing about this system is I can quickly enable and disable turbo mode using Control-Alt and then either numpad minus. Let's let's see, numpad plus to turn it on, numpad minus to turn it off. Of course, I have to make sure the turbo button is actually not, the turbo switch is actually off first. So, but anyways, so yeah, we need to make sure that our primary hard disk is turned off in system setup, and you can do it in system setup, but if you've got a system where you can't actually soft disable it in system setup, then you're actually going to have to go ahead and pop the cover and either unplug the IDE cable from the drive or unplug the power connector from the drive. So, and the reason that we have to do this is, the next thing we need to do is we need to actually go ahead and make the partition on the first partition on the SCSI drive startable. So let me see, 5.2. If we go ahead and we look at our current partition information, we can see that our status field is completely blank. There's no A in there, indicating that the partition is not active. And if we try to set an active partition, we just get a little tick from the system speaker and a complaint from FDISK saying that only partitions on drive 1 can be made active. So we can't do that with the SCSI drive being the second fixed disk drive in the system. But what we can do is we can disable the primary hard disk in the system's BIOS, and then we can boot from our MS-DOS startup diskette. Yep, they're all right protected. So so we'll just go ahead and pop our diskette in the drive, and we'll warm boot the system. And we'll be starting up from our diskette in no time flat. See, there we go, installed as drive C. So our configuration change certainly worked. And this is a slightly modified startup diskette. I've uncompressed a few utilities onto it and played around with config.sys and autoexec.bat to create a RAM drive. Because before I actually have a hard drive up and running in this system, what I would do is I would boot off of this diskette, and it would create a RAM drive, initialize a sound card. I know I have it right protected. I'm just going to have to deal with it. And what I would do is I would boot from this diskette, and it would create a RAM drive, and it would initialize the sound card, and then I would do diskette swapping and copy over demos into this RAM disk, and I would run the demos right out of the RAM disk. Okay, so now that we're booted up into MS-DOS, we can start FDISK from here. And now we get our no partition set active warning. So we'll just go ahead and set an active partition. And we want to set partition 1 active. It says partition 1 made active. And then we can kick out of FDISK. Now this thing where it says insert DOS system diskette and drive A, we don't have to do that. We're actually done with our MS-DOS diskette. So now system will reboot, and we will boot up onto our SCSI hard disk. It's going to seek the floppy drive, and then we should go ahead and boot. Or maybe not. Non-system disk or disk error. I don't know if it thinks there's a floppy in the drive, or if it's complaining about the SCSI drive. Okay, it's complaining about the SCSI drive. So what we'll do, we'll just go ahead and turn our hard disk 1 back on, and we'll reset the system. and we'll end up booting back into our IDE drive. And I'm holding down shift so that way it doesn't process anything in config.sys or autoexec.bat. And that shaves a good couple of minutes off the boot time, but we have like practically no device drivers loaded or anything like that. But because the SCSI controller's BIOS has the SCSI drive as drive D, we can just go to D and do a directory listing and everything's there. So let's go back to C, and then we'll run a command. We'll do sys and then D. And what this is going to do is going to copy the base system files to our SCSI drive. And because we've already, it's going to, not only is it going to copy our base files to our SCSI drive, it's also going to go ahead and install a boot sector on the D drive. So let's see. Yeah, so I'll just do a sysd, and it'll go ahead and copy the base system files to that drive, and it installs a MS-DOS boot sector. And now we get a message here saying system transferred. And once we get that message, we can go ahead and jump into system setup here, turn off the IDE drive, and reboot the system. And now we should boot off of the SCSI drive at any moment. Alright, BIOS initialize, seeking the floppy drive, and there we go. Alrighty, and we are now up and running in MS-DOS. So, I've got a few different autoexec.bat and config.sys files going on here. Right now I'm running the ones that I use for backing up and restoring to tape. Because if I'm just running my regular normal autoexec.bat and config.sys, I get errors from Seagate Backup complaining that it's out of memory. So probably because it's running out of memory in the base 640K. And then of course I have my regular autoexec.bat and config.sys, which loads all the drivers and initializes all the things. And then I have a really basic clean boot autoexec.bat and config.sys, which I use for whenever I'm running demos that don't like things like N and 386 running in memory and stuff like that, where it basically needs to be a clean boot, except the sound card needs to be initialized. So, but now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and rename some things and get our normal autoexec.bat and config.sys file back in place and get these shuffled out of rotation. So here we go. And let's go ahead and reboot. And if I did everything right, then we should get the full initialization gamut going on here. There we go. There's the Intel Config Manager, there's the ASPI Manager coming up. There we go. And 13H. There's a CD-ROM, device driver. And here's a sound card drivers coming up. 225 DMA1. Current date is December 25th, 1994. Okay, that's not completely valid. Yeah. Everything looks good there. Okay. I guess we need to copy. Actually. Backup, debug, QB back. Okay. Yeah, I'm not completely sure what happened there. So, control escape, turn that back on, and reboot. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy my regular autoexec.bat over. And sometimes this thing just completely loses the plot and I have to hard reset the entire system. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to boot and I'm just going to boot back to the into the IDE drive, and then I'm just going to copy over my normal autoexec.bat file, and then we should be completely squared away. And I'll probably also copy config.sys over as well. Copy config.sys over top of it as well. Right. And yeah, let's just gonna go ahead and overwrite. So I don't know what I did to make that completely disappear, unless I just completely overwrote one of my files. I have absolutely no idea. I'll have to look back through my video footage. Maybe you've already found out what I've done and you're pointing it out in the comments right now as I speak. But I don't know what happened there. But now I can go ahead and turn the hard disk off and reset. Alright, there's a CD-ROM driver coming up. Sound card drivers are coming up now. And if everything goes according to plan, then we should actually get some good driver initialization going on. Okay. CTM sys, CTCU. There we go. Yes, I do have a full TCP/IP stack running on this thing. In real mode DOS, no less. Alright, so there we go. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to boot up into Windows. And if this goes anything like the last time I tried this, that way I kind of made sure that I had everything down before I actually recorded the video. We're probably going to end up getting a blue screen here saying that our permanent swap file is corrupt. So here we go. Yep, the permanent swap file is corrupt. So yeah, we're going to need to... So I'm going to tell it to go ahead and delete the corrupt swap file. And then we are probably going to end up getting further errors from the system. Well, not further errors, plural, but we're certainly not completely out of the woods just yet. We're going to have to make a dive in a control panel and see what's going on. Alright, we're just going to cancel right out of that because I do not desire to log on to the Microsoft Windows network. So as soon as this loads, and we're probably also running 16-bit disk access on everything. So we're going to go ahead and head into main here, open up our control panel. And let's see, 386 enhanced, virtual memory, and we get another warning from our control panel here saying a corrupt permanent swap file was found on drive C. To get accurate swap file analysis, the file should be set to 0 length. Set corrupt file to 0 length now. You have to answer yes if you want to get into your virtual memory settings. And yep, we're using 16-bit disk and file access on drive C. And then I'm not going to change the disk and file access just yet, but we still need to go in here and create a permanent swap file. So everything looks sane. I'm going to click OK, tell it yes. We're going to continue. Click OK, get out of that, get out of that. And then we're going to go ahead and let's have a look at our Adaptec SCSI software. And on some systems, whenever you enable 32-bit disk access, Windows Control Panel incorrectly loads the IDE 32-bit disk access driver, even if you only have SCSI disk drives. This will typically result in an error message while loading Windows similar to the following. Microsoft Windows 32-bit disk driver cannot be loaded on this computer because of interrupt conflicts. Your configuration appears to be incorrectly loading the IDE 32-bit disk access driver. Would you like us to remove this from your system.ini file? If you choose no and click next, then it's not going to do anything. So I'm actually going to go ahead and demonstrate that for you real quick. So if we go in here and as soon as this loads, go ahead and get up in here, and for some reason it's still complaining about this. And it's gone back to having a temporary swap file for some reason. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on 32-bit file and disk access here. I click OK, yes, yes, continue, OK. And then I'm just going to go ahead and close Control Panel, drop out of Windows, and then we'll go ahead and head back up into Windows as soon as this kicks back out to DOS. I can't believe this video has been going on for an hour and 25 minutes pre-editing. Now, of course, post-editing, this is probably going to come down to less than an hour. I'm going to kick back up into Windows. And there's our error. The Microsoft Windows 32-bit disk driver, WDCTRL, cannot be loaded on this computer because of interrupt conflicts. To continue starting Windows without using the 32-bit disk driver, press any key. So while it's not like a complete blue screen where you get a Windows protection error, system halted or anything like that, and it actually does let you continue loading Windows. It's one of the more graceful error messages that you can get while loading Windows, because it basically lets you continue loading Windows without having to toy around in config.sys or anything like that. And we do have a bit of a brief pause here, but that's just because the system is probably obtaining an IP address and whatnot, because Windows does reinitialize some of the hardware for itself. There's Microsoft Office coming up. Then Norton System Watch comes up right there, and now the system is pretty well usable. So if we have another look at our 386 Enhanced Virtual Memory settings, we are probably going to have a permanent swap file, but 32-bit file and disk access will be turned off. Okay, yeah, we have a 32-bit, we have a permanent swap file, and it says that our file and disk access is both all 32-bit, but I know that that's not possible because we got that error message from Windows. So to fix this, we just open up our 32-bit disk access utility and we tell it, yes, modify system.ini. And it tells us that changes have been made and our previous one has been saved as blah 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 blah. And then we go ahead and exit out, and we'll need to restart Windows. Now, we should be able to boot up back into Windows without getting an error. And let's go ahead and have another look in Adaptec SCSI 32-bit disk access, and we can see that everything is enabled, happy, hunky-dory, and everything like that. So, yep, I know how to get there. So, if we look in Control Panel, then everything should be pretty well sane. Yep, and we are using full 32-bit file and disk access, and everything appears to be all good. So, and then let's see, Windows group, and then basically we're going to actually go ahead and drop back out to DOS and see if we can't run a defrag against our hard drive. I don't think we'll need a defrag, but it certainly never hurts to check. Okay, Microsoft defrag for MS-DOS. That's not what I want. And of course, this is a fairly neutered version of the defrag program that comes with, that actually ships with Norton Utilities. So we're just going to cancel out of that. So let me see. Speed disk. So let me see. Configure. I typed Alt-C and it died. I hit cancel. Okay. Select the hard disk, and it's going to go ahead and analyze our disk information. %of drive C is not fragmented. Okay. It says on fragment files only. I'm going to go ahead and tell it to do a full optimization. So, and I'll just let this run, and we'll come back whenever it finishes, which may or may not be too far from now. That was quick. Okay, you may optimize another drive or reconfigure for the current drive. Let's configure and see what it reports. Okay, configure, let's see. So fragmentation report, looks like io.sys is fragmented. But it looks like everything else is here. 5 clusters, 2 fragments, drive space.bin. But it looks like everything's all good, so go ahead and exit out of here. And go ahead and exit out of that too. And I believe that this is going to be the end of the video. So anyways, this is TCG Productions here. Peace out, guys. Peace out, and see you in the next one.